Hello, everyone. Welcome to another episode of From the District from State Senator Suzanne Weber. Again, we are doing this not from the district. Senator, you are in the Capitol.
Right. Like I said last week, we're not at my kitchen table. We're not in the sunroom. And the sun is not shining, and it's snowing in a lot of places in Oregon. The pictures I've seen on Facebook of Highway 6 up on the summit. Okay, the beauty is just astounding.
It is.
But
I will say, my property is on Highway 6, which is why I always have a very vested interest in Highway 6. I had a septic pump coming up to take care of that today, and he said, nope, won't be doing that. So I had to reschedule that, and I'm sure a lot of people are having to do a lot of rescheduling these next few days.
Yeah, there was one picture I saw with, I think, 3 semis that were stuck.
Oh, gosh.
I know, Tom, when he was driving truck, this kind of weather would just throw him, off completely.
Oh, yeah. God bless our truckers, especially the truckers who are up in the hills.
There were times when he'd be stuck up on the Sandy Am.
Oh, gosh.
And couldn't move. It was very frustrating. Yeah.
Yeah. Those guys don't move. They don't get paid.
That's right.
That is not a good thing. So, Senator, how's your week been? It's Monday. We record these on Mondays, but how is this last week for you?
Well, last week was extremely busy. It was. We went every day, all day long. And there were, committee meetings. There were hearings. And one of the hearings, that we had last week was on my bill for 466.
Oh, yes.
And to refresh everybody's mind, because I'm sure you don't remember the numbers, just like sometimes I don't, because there's 2,000 sets of numbers that we have to remember, or 2,400 sets of numbers we have to remember. But this is our summer camp for our military kids, or kids of military. And it was, we had wonderful participation. We have a lot of positive energy going forward. This is not going to be a really expensive bill as far as what's being asked for, but it's something that's really going to be there for military kids especially. Because, there's only 5 states that don't have a major military facility, and we're one of them. I mean, yes, we do have smaller facilities. We have Coast Guard. We have National Guard. We have down in Southern Oregon. But we don't have any big facilities. So if a kid's parent is deployed, sometimes they're the only one in the school district.
Right.
So they need to be able to relate to other children who are in their same situation. And this is a camp that would give them that opportunity.
Right. And you had just some great testimony. You had some folks. I'm the one who always says there's no crying in politics, because there's always somebody who cries every session, at least once. But this choked you up. I mean, anybody with a heart was choked up by these stories about how much these kids got from this camp. It meant so much. And we're really talking, we're talking about $100,000 over 2 years.
Yes.
That gives you a chance to really affect positively thousands of children.
Yes.
That is a heck of a bang for your buck.
It really is. But once again, last time we had a real tearjerker of a hearing, for a military person, and this, just hearing the impact that the military has on our citizens, the emotional impact it has is so amazing.
It really is. And I think there were a lot of good questions. It wasn't just a rubber stamp. The committee had some really good questions about how funding, have they looked for funding elsewhere? What's been the response? And those folks who are in leadership there, they had great responses saying that they really have looked a lot of places for funding, and have just come up short because they're so niche. If you have
Right.
a camp for just military brats,
Yes.
like, that's one thing. But this camp isn't just for military kids; it's also for kids of veterans.
Yes.
So that now if you have a camp just for kids of veterans, there's funding for that too. There's a camp for, but when we combine the two, there's no real
Oh,
funding
right.
for it.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
And I think it's a real testament. One of the things that we ask when you have this public hearing gives a chance for everybody in the public and in government to come and testify why something should pass or why it shouldn't pass or why
Right.
it should be changed. And I think it was a real testament to how the committee felt about it. The fact that a work session, which is when the committee votes, was scheduled just a few days afterwards.
Yes.
I think the committee
think
hearing
that's
was
the real
like
testament.
on
to the-
Wednesday, on Thursday, and I think that it was on Saturday that it was scheduled. So we have a work session coming up on this on February 11th. So encourage you to, if you have are represented by anybody in the Senate, Veterans Affairs, Federal Affairs, World Affairs. It's a really emergency management's a really long name. But if you're represented by any of those members, or if you want to just reach out to any of the members on that committee, encourage them to vote yes on
Yes, please do that.
3466. Then that'll send that to Ways and Means, in which
Right.
case we'll all pray that they'll agree
Yes, that they will. Yes,
that we should
they
do
will
that.
they will put their blessing on it, and
Yes,
Yeah.
yes, it's such a little amount
you know,
of money.
because
So,
well, we have so many that are asking for so many millions of dollars. That,
Right.
this is not a lot of money. Hopefully, this will,
Yeah.
be granted. Another, if we're talking about good news and things like that,
always.
if you have an opportunity to get the Daily Astorian,
Mhm.
there is a guest editorial column from the school superintendent. Last week, one thing that came out was the dismal reports on how our schools were doing in this state.
Right.
And let me tell you, I mean, you couldn't get much farther down. And it was really unfortunate that we have those sorts of scores. But the superintendent has written this, and he has pointed out, the excellent work that is being done in Astoria. And it's my opinion that if our superintendents were to look very carefully at our school districts in our district, they would find similar results, because we have really caring teachers and staff that are working really hard to make sure that our kids come out of the COVID funk. And
Right.
so, but anyway, if you have an opportunity to get a hold of his editorial and read it, yeah, it's very well done, and it's very complimentary both to the students and the teachers in the Astoria School District.
Well, that's wonderful. It's such a good thing to hear some of our local smaller school districts pointing out some successes, because you're right. Boy, we have heard just continuous march of bad news about how things
Yep.
are going in education in Oregon, and it just seems like we keep doing the same thing
I
over
know.
and over again, and just giving more money at it, and
And
not
I've had
contemplating that maybe we should change a few things.
I had a remonstrance on the floor of the legislature later last Thursday to talk about that. And it's saying we have to change what we're doing
Right.
if we're going to be able to come up in the standings of educational excellence. And I did get some blowback saying that what I said was negative. It's not. That isn't what's negative. We have to pay attention to the report that was negative.
Yeah, the results have been. If you said what was negative, you were just responding to the reality of the scores are bad.
Right.
I mean, things are bad. Things are really bad. And to constantly, I mean, it's always good. I'm glad the superintendent pointed out some good things that are happening in school districts. But I think we as a state have to acknowledge that things are bad.
There are a lot of
If
things we have to turn around.
If we don't acknowledge that things are bad, then we won't fix the things that are bad and make them better. And I don't think if we just keep doing the same thing over and over again, I mean, definition of insanity, right?
Right.
We can't just expect different results by throwing, a few extra $1 billion at it, because every single time you guys fully fund education, you would reach out to the school districts, you reach out to the Department of Education, you ask how much money do we feel that it's going to take to
be able to
function,
to fund.
function. And you guys have given them everybody they want for Lord knows how many biennia now.
Yes.
But
we still have people saying that we have not fully funded education. So, okay, maybe there's some other things we ought to look at.
Right. So maybe it's time to just.
Yes. And the governor, to her credit, is looking seriously at improving accountability in our schools. So what that's going to look like, I just got some more reading material today concerning it. And so we'll see how it goes forward. We have a meeting on the 5th of February, again, with the governor to discuss this. So go forward.
I'm glad to hear that. I hope it's not just, let's give them another $1 billion.
She's committed to making some serious changes.
Well, that's good to hear. I hope that happens. And I hope your colleagues remain open to making some serious changes and not just throwing more money at the problem, which you do every year, and it just doesn't ever seem to move it.
Right. And I will be testifying on a couple more bills coming forward this week, but we'll let you know about those in the future. But I think that we've got 2 bills coming forward in housing. Yeah,
I did want to talk just a little bit about a couple of these bills. Like we always try to catch a couple of bills that you're the chief sponsor on, and you have a couple of them that are around housing.
Yes,
housing. I got a special place in my heart for housing. I know you do as well. When we worked together on the city council in Tillamook,
and the housing commission for the county.
We certainly did that as well. I think one of the things that we discovered.
Ways and Means today, the 3rd of February.
You have a TV in your office. That's right.
Well, yes, because it's connected to the hearings or the committee hearings, and so you can tune in and hear what's going on in all of the committee. And one just started, and I didn't realize that my that was connected to it.
I understand. I've done that before.
Yeah.
So one of the things I think, particularly in Oregon, it's everywhere, but in Oregon it seems to be really, really bad, is dealing with bureaucracy.
Yes.
Of housing, right? So one of these.
Dealing with bureaucracy is the reason that both of those bills of mine are coming forward.
Right. So let's take a look at the first one. This is SB 462, which requires the Oregon Business Development Department to establish an education course for land use planners. I'm going to move you right here. Land use planners for local governments, special districts, and state agencies. Now, I think anybody has ever done any sort of building, they've dealt with a land use planner in Oregon. That person at the county or at the city who is looking at your plans and telling you where you can build, where you can't build, things like that. Right?
And land use planning people are very, very special. They are very focused on details. They're very well educated going forward, and they look at all of these things, but there is no focus on consistency. And continuing education is one of the ways to be able to bring that to the forefront. And then the other thing is licensure. We have licensure for fingernails and dog people, and for almost every section of service that is provided. I think we need licensure for our planners also.
Right. This would allow for folks who are really dealing, certainly on the government side, but they are working with people who are dealing with millions of dollars.
Yes.
The decisions that they make can affect millions upon millions upon millions of dollars, can affect tax credits coming out of other jurisdictions. There's a lot there, and I think I know a lot of land use planners, having done a lot of work in real estate. A lot of them are my friends. Even being my friends, some of them don't understand the business side of development. They understand about land use law, and God bless them.
Right.
I'm glad they do, because I don't have the time. But I don't think they understand sometimes, some of them, the business side of things. And it really gives them an opportunity, I think, to be educated in changes and really the finer points of the business side of what they're doing.
Yes.
Yeah.
So I'd like to go forward with that, and hopefully that will be something that will be getting a hearing.
Yeah, I certainly hope so. And it's one other thing I think it's really that we don't think about is we had a lot of land use planners who aren't homegrown here in Oregon, right?
Right.
But Oregon's land use laws
they
are so individual. They're so specific, so draconian. But Oregon's land use law, it really is special. So having someone coming from Wisconsin or Florida or Kansas or Nebraska or Vermont,
right,
who may be starting their career in Oregon, this gives them an opportunity to make sure that they're up to speed of what they're getting themselves.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And
great bill.
And then I've got the other one.
Yeah, let's talk about this, because this SB 464, this has a real tragic backstory. This is one of those bills that you really hate to have to bring because it's just so heart-wrenching. But tell us where this came from.
Well, we had a family in my district who had a house fire. And this was the unfortunate, the really sad, tragic part of it is the people who owned the house, their daughter and grandchildren were living in the house. The house caught on fire, burned completely, and they lost their daughter and their grandchildren in that fire. Well, then it came to the point where they wanted to rebuild because the ashes of their family were right there. And
my understanding is they wanted to rebuild and sell so they could get on with their lives and just kind of be done with this chapter, try to recoup some of the loss.
Yeah, and I don't remember if selling it was going to be, that wasn't paramount immediately. Mm-hmm. But they went to get their permits, and it's a rural forested area. The house had been built in 1977. They had been paying property taxes from the moment they moved into this house. So it was something that was there. It was established. It was being, they were doing their due diligence. Well, the county could only find the permits for their driveway and their septic system, and couldn't find the original building permit on this. So at one point in time, these people, they're heartbreaking, couldn't clean up the mess even. We're told it would be 2.5 years because of all of the permits they would have to go through to be able to even begin building. Well, I don't know how you feel about that, but I think that is absolutely ludicrous.
Without even the emotional side of it, it's terrible. But 2.5 years to build?
Yes, and they had some challenges because of dates with their insurance company as to when they would be able to get their payout so that they could do this. I worked with Senator Johnson, and several other people. And because of being dogged about this, we're able to get a resolution within 1 year. And so by this, the fire was on the 7th of August, and it was by the 7th of August the next year, they were able to build and start to clean up. They were living in a trailer, their travel trailer on the property, and having to look at this every single day. And there were many times when I talked to the gentleman, what could you do but cry over it? Because the loss was so it was so humongous, and then what was going to have to happen to be able to at least begin to get whole on this was so emotional because of the bureaucracy that they were running up against every single day, that it was amazing. And the other thing was, when we were talking about planners, we were talking to all kinds of different planners because of the diversity of the different people, their experiences, and their tenure in the planning department. That also, everybody had to start from fresh, scratch on this. So,
yeah, it's important to also mention that you do represent rural Northwest Oregon, but you also represent a part of Multnomah County,
exactly.
which fits again. So we are dealing with Multnomah County.
You're dealing with big bureaucracy.
Yeah, it was right on the border, I think, Columbia County and Multnomah County. Unfortunately, on the Multnomah County side, and I say unfortunate just because of the size of the bureaucracy. So this bill, what this would do, very simple, is that if you are paying property taxes on a structure that exists, a dwelling that exists, and it burns down,
yes,
or is destroyed, it needs to be restored, or rebuilt, that it must be approved, and it's not a land use decision. So
right.
It takes the power away from the land use department, the planning department, and just puts it in the building department, and does not give them the ability to turn it down. So,
right.
Hopefully what this will do is, God forbid anything like something as terrible as this happens, but even if it's just in a situation where, God forbid, somebody's house burns down and nobody dies, but you got to deal with it, that you'll be able to get building within a few months instead of a few years.
Right.
So,
you'll be able to get, the debris cleaned up, get the mess cleaned up, and get on with life. So you'll be able to handle, because, I hear all the time about people trying to get building permits and having to wait a year and a half or 2 years to be able to start something that seems incredibly simple.
Right. So both of these bills, unfortunately, neither of them yet are slated for a public hearing, but they are both in the Senate Committee on Housing and Development, which has 5 members. That's the chair is Senator Con Pham, the vice chair, Senator Dick Anderson, and then the members are Senator Anthony Broadman, Senator Todd Nash, and Senator Deb Patterson. Especially Senator Pham would really encourage everyone to contact these members and ask for public hearings on SB 462 and SB 464 to help.
I would appreciate it.
Yeah, to really help get past bureaucracy. And the governor has been very clear that housing, not just housing or low income housing, but actually housing stock development is a big thing for her.
It is.
So we need to get this going, and these 2 bills I think will help really help people and really help that part of her agenda. So
yeah, we have really encouraged this.
Yeah. So Senator, let's start wrapping it up. We promised that we would keep these as we're doing them every week during session at 30 minutes.
Yes.
What do you have coming up this week that you want to point out to me?
Well, like I said, I've got 2 bills that I'm going to be testifying on. And I'm looking forward to that, moving these things forward, because, we've got at least 2,400 bills.
Right.
coming at us. And so let's get moving on these things.
Yes, indeed. We're right in kind of the
Yes.
of trying to push bills forward. That's the part of session we're in and now, because we're not in the deadline section
Right.
yet, but we're in the pushing section now.
And I got a policy brief on transportation today on what we're going to be looking at today. We're going to be looking at some tweaks to the I-5 replacement bridge bill and financial assistance programs for port projects and
Port, right? Port, not
Port.
port.
not port,
Right.
pulled port. No, and regulations of the operation of commercial vehicles and a public hearing on regulation of the operation of drivers' vehicles and dealers and dismantlers, which is something that is really important right now with motorhomes and things that they are, having to deal with on a regular basis. Going in and having these motorhomes abandoned in different places.
Right. That's a huge problem. And I was just talking to a real estate colleague of mine who was just trying to figure out how to get an abandoned motorhome off of a property that she was trying to sell. And
It's very expensive.
It's expensive. And the person she was trying to sell it for was dead. So they didn't have anybody they said they couldn't, they wouldn't come get it because it was on private property, even though it wasn't put there by the owner. They said, well, but if you drag it on to public property, they'll come get it. So what do you think they did? They drug it on.
They drug it onto public property.
That they sure did. Well, Senator, it is always a pleasure to chat with you about what's going on, especially during these sessions when there is so much moving so fast. Look forward to getting these bills moving forward and look forward to talking about more success next week.
And I will tell you that I'm not sure what bill was being talked to, but when I went from Education, Ways and Means back to the office here to talk to you, there was a whole contingent of people that had cow things on their heads. So you might want to see what kind of a bill was out there with.
What committee was that? Because now I got to go look because I'm interested.
I don't know because I was in my other committee. I didn't. But anyway, everybody had a little headband on with ears and horns and there were several people in spotted costumes.
It's never a boring time.
That's
right. State Capitol during the session.
That's right.
All right, Senator. Always a pleasure. And thank you very much for your time. And everyone, we'll see you back here next week.
All right. Sounds good. Thank you again.